Hello and welcome. It's Cheryl here from senseofwhimsy.com.au. Today I'm here with the Creating Kindness Design Team video hop. The theme for February is Fun Folds, and there are links to all of the other design team members' videos in the video description below. Today I'm going to create a spring fold, and I have given instructions here in both metric and imperial. I've also included measurements and a diagram on my blog if you prefer written instructions. The link to my blog post is included in the video description below. These are the metric measurements for the spring fold card. So you'll need a piece of cardstock that's 30 centimetres by 15 centimetres. Along the 30 centimetre edge, mark increments with a pencil of 7.5 centimetres. So that'll be 7.5 centimetres, 15 centimetres and 22.5 centimetres. I'm using the Simply Scored to score my fold lines, and the base plate is in imperial measurements, so we'll bring in the metric overlay for the metric measurements. On the left hand side there are score lines for standard card sizes, and on the right hand side it is in half centimetre increments. Now you'll notice here that this measurement is actually 7.4, not 7.5, so we can't use that score line, it'll be slightly out. So my advice here is to actually start on the 10 centimetre mark and then count across the 7.5 centimetres, which will give you the 17.5 centimetre mark. So score down at that point. I found that it makes a more precise finished fold if you do your diagonal lines next. The diagonal score lines will run from the 22.5 centimetre mark through to the 7.5 centimetre mark. Take away the metric scoring plate and bring in the diagonal scoring plate. Now because we won't have any metric measurements to go off, we're going to just have to rely on those pencil marks that I've made. So this one up here is the 7.5 point, and I'm just going to run my score tool down underneath just to make sure that that particular line that we're using lines up with the mark that I've made at the 22.5 centimetre mark at the bottom. So it does, so just score down that point, flip the board around, and now we're going to run from that pencil mark at the 22.5 centimetre mark on the top, and again we'll do a test run down underneath just to make sure that it does come down to my pencil mark at the bottom, which does, so score that line, and then it will cross over here theoretically at the 15 centimetre mark. So bring back in the metric plate. So this was the 7.5 centimetre fold line, and we'll need another fold line at 15 centimetres. That should meet up where the two diagonal lines intersect perfectly, and it does, so we'll just score that line straight down. It's important that that 15 centimetre score line intersects precisely with where the two diagonal lines cross. Measure and mark the halfway point on the downward measurement, so that's 15 centimetres, so halfway will be 7.5 centimetres. Bring in your Stampin' Trimmer, and we're going to slice off those diagonal corners. So put the cut line at the 22.5 centimetre mark, and also that mark you just made at the halfway point on the downward side. Do the same on the opposite side. Remove those two corners to make a point. Now we'll do our folding. These two lines here will be valley folds, so that means that the folds make a valley when you're looking at them. And then the two diagonal lines will be mountain folds, so they poke up as you're looking at them. So just score and burnish with the bone folder, and then that should easily come together in this little spring fold. It's important that these two corners here are perfectly aligned, and then this sits flat in an envelope, and when you pull it out of the envelope it springs up. Now we'll do the imperial measurements for the spring fold. So you'll need a piece of cardstock that is 12 inches by 6 inches, and along the top long 12-inch side we'll mark increments of 3 inches. So that's 3 inches, 6 inches and 9 inches. So we'll use the Simply Scored again, and we'll just use the base plate, and the very first score line will go at the 3-inch mark between those two pencil lines you made. Now we'll skip the 6-inch line and we'll do our diagonal lines first. So bring in the diagonal scoring plate, and the first diagonal fold will start at the 3-inch mark. So I'm just going to run my scoring tool down to make sure that if I start at that 3-inch mark, it will finish down here at the 9-inch mark. And it does, so we'll score that. And then flip the diagonal plate around so we can score the other diagonal line, which will start at the 9-inch mark. And again, we'll just do a trial through to make sure that that finishes down here at this 3-inch mark where the other fold line finishes. So again, just score that diagonal line, and where they intersect here should be the 6-inch mark. So we'll just pop the diagonal plate out of the road and make sure that that 6-inch score line goes right through where the two diagonal lines cross over. That's the important bit. Make a mark on the shorter side at the 3-inch mark. So this is 6 inches high, and you need a mark at the 3-inch point. And then we're going to trim off the corners. So start here at the 9-inch point and trim down to that halfway mark. And again, the halfway mark down to the 9-inch mark on the end to make this pointy end. So now we're folding. We'll do the two straight folds, or straight up and down folds, as valley folds. So that means they look like a valley from the front. And then the diagonal folds are a mountain fold, so they poke up when you fold them and look at it from the front, looking like a mountain. And then that folds nicely into place, and these two corners here should match exactly if you've got your folding correct. So that will go into a square envelope, and then when you pull it out of the envelope, it will pop up. The decoration on your springfold card will go on this square top piece, and I'm using a main layer plus a mat, and then you can also decorate this bottom piece. To decorate my springfold card today, I'm going to be sponging these white layers with a combination of Peekaboo Peach, Sweet Sugar Plum and Daffodil Delight inks. I'm sponging in random blobs over the Whisper White cardstock pieces, starting from the outside and working in. It's no particular order, it's just wherever I feel like sponging. I'll start off with one colour, then I will blend in some Peekaboo Peach into other areas, and then go over with Daffodil Delight to fill in any remaining white spaces. And then right at the end I'll come back in with the Sweet Sugar Plum and just make sure that everything's blended together really well. Adhere the sponge layers to the Sweet Sugar Plum mats. Create the floral feature on the card front. I'll use the Flourish Thinlits dies. So this leaf die, I need 2 or 3 of those, this larger flower die and the smaller flower die, plus I haven't shown you here, but I'm also going to be using the very small flower die. I've die cut a number of these elements out of Whisper White cardstock, and then I'll just sponge them up with various colours. I wanted a minty look for the leaves, and so I've used Tranquil Tide, just sponged very lightly. This gives a really nice minty shade of green. The larger flowers on the piece are created with the large flower die and then one of the medium-sized flower dies. So for the larger flower die, I'll sponge it quite lightly. This one's with Wisteria Wonder. And then I'll come in and sponge the medium-sized flower in quite a darker shade, so it stands out over the top of the lighter flower. So in total you'll need 2 or 3 leaves, some flowers, and I've done Wisteria Wonder, Sweet Sugar Plum, Peekaboo Peach and Daffodil Delight. The greeting I'm using for this project is Thinking of You from the Colourful Seasons stamp set. I'm stamping that in Sweet Sugar Plum onto a scrap of Whisper White cardstock. Trim that out with your paper snips, just square on one end and a flagged banner shape on the other end. And then I'm going to tie a piece of Peekaboo Peach baker's twine around the square end. Then it's just a matter of putting all of these elements together on the front panels of the springfold card. So I'm using multi-purpose liquid glue, a sponge and my silicone craft mat. and applying a fine layer of glue to the back of each piece, gluing them all down onto the front of the card. See, I've glued a medium-sized flower over every large flower in the same colour. They're those ones that I sponged a little bit darker. And then I've also got just some single medium flowers, and in the centre of each flower is one of those very small flowers from the Flourish Thinlits dies. I'm going to adhere the greeting piece here before I put the final flower on, and I'll just do that with a little bit of multi-purpose liquid glue as well, and then that final large flower will go right over the top. You can also decorate that rectangular piece that goes on the bottom of the Springfold card, remembering that you really only need decorative elements on the two edges because the middle bit will be covered when we glue it down. The decorated pieces can then be adhered onto the Springfold card, the rectangular piece on the bottom and the square piece diagonally onto the top layer. So that's the Springfold card decorated and almost finished. You can see it doesn't actually pop up very well. So to have the card pop up and display nicely, apply some liquid glue to the triangular piece that will then glue down onto that bottom rectangular layer. I added some Wisteria Wonder and So Saffron enamel dots to the centres of my flowers to finish off. You will need to create a special envelope for this card using your envelope punch board. I've decorated my envelope with the Flourishing Phrases stamp set and added a couple of the sponged die cuts. So if you open your envelope and pull the little pop-up card out, you can see that this piece pops up and displays nicely. You can write a greeting on the back side if you like. And once you've opened those folds out, the card actually sits up a lot better for display. I hope you've enjoyed this project today. All the measurements and a diagram are on my blog. And don't forget to check out the links in the video description below to see what fun folds the other Creating Kindness design team members have created. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you again soon.